Welcome to Mosaic Ministries, where we uncover God's love in the Bible and explore His Word to activate life, light, and love in our everyday walk. Each week, we delve into the Scriptures, seeking God's truth and the timeless lessons He has for us today. Together, let's ask the question, does it bring life? Does it bring light? Does it bring love? Does it bring Jesus? Let's dive in and discover what God has prepared for us today. So our Torah portion is Chukat, and it begins with, "Then the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, This is the statute of the law which the Lord has commanded, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel, that they may bring you an unblemished red heifer, in which is no defect, on which a yoke has never been placed." The red heifer, again, the book of Numbers is a very active book. This is one of those areas where we're going to get, basically, it's not the Torah, it's actually a Chukat, which is a statute. There are those three ideas of the different laws or different aspects of the Torah, that is the Chukat or the statutes, the mishpatim, the judgments, and the Torah, which is the law. And the Chukim, what we call the statutes, is what the rabbis call, or some say that it's one of those kisses from heaven, because we don't really understand the reasoning behind something that seems like a paradox. And that is here, just beginning with the red heifer, that this is meant to cleanse people from contact with death. And the people who are preparing this cleansing sacrifice or cleansing water end up being contaminated or unclean in the process. So it's one of those, we don't really understand the reasoning, but we're trusting the Lord. But I want to encourage us today that things that seem like paradox are really not, that the Lord has such depth to what He is showing us. And this Torah portion has a lot, and I know that we've dealt with the red heifer before, and another one of these paradoxes is at the end of this Torah portion, when the fiery serpents come, when Israel's murmuring against Moses and Aaron about their circumstances, and the fiery serpents come and bite them. They complain, and of course Moses intercedes for them, and he gives them the bronze serpent. So the source of their death, they're supposed to look at the bronze serpent, the staff is going to be raised up, and then if they would look at it, they would be healed after they are bitten. It's very paradoxic in the sense that here, the source of our pain or our suffering and potential death, we look to something exactly like it and we're healed. You would think I'm going to deal with all of those things, but I'm not. We're just pointing out the paradox of it all. During this Torah portion, we do get more of the narrative that Israel is about to enter into the land, and this is what we're going to really deal with. We are going to address the paradox, don't worry, but in a different way. This portion goes on to describe the movement of Israel through the wilderness as they're about to come to the promised land and receive the inheritance. This is where Miriam dies. The rock stops giving water. This is where Moses and Aaron strike the rock twice and then can't come into the land. This is where Aaron dies and that Eleazar is placed in leadership. So there's this movement. They come to the edge of the land. They ask Edom if we can go into the land. They say, no, I'm sorry, you can't pass through our land on your way. We run into problems with Ammon, the Ammonites, all that. And actually, we're going to deal with it in our Haftarah. So turn to Judges chapter 11. Judges chapter 11 actually gives us a nice detailed, and we're actually going to read pretty much the whole chapter, because maybe some of us are familiar with this guy, maybe some of us aren't, but this deals with Jephthah. Jephthah in the Hebrew, and his name means he opened, presumably God, whom God sets free. There's an idea of freedom, there's an idea of opening up. His name has a positive meaning. And I think this guy has a bad rap. We misunderstand him and the things that he was faced with. He's one of the judges in Israel. So this is in the book of Judges during the period before the kings. And the Lord is going and moving through different judges to lead Israel, to deliver them, to bring them back to a relationship with God. And he's one of them. and we have his account in a whole chapter. I'll give you the misunderstanding real quick. We often think of him in context of his daughter. He's the one who made a vow to offer up his daughter as a burnt offering. There's a disturbance in, well, here is a man who's a judge and he does something terrible. And in fact, did the Lord accept a sacrifice, a human sacrifice, so that he would have victory over his enemies? And that's kind of what we're going to be dealing with today. But I want to point out one in particular thing about Jephthah before we begin, in that he is in the Hall of Fame of faith in Hebrews chapter 11. Hebrews chapter 11, you don't have to turn there, but in verse 32, it's going through all of the people of faith, and it says, "And what more shall I say? For time would fail me if I were to talk of Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, of David, and of Samuel, and the prophets." So Jephthah must be somebody of great faith. But from experience, I haven't heard him being one of great faith, but one of perhaps making a rash vow or not doing things in the proper manner, just doing stuff for himself. Well, I'm hoping that what we'll see is that that actually isn't the case. And that's why we're going to read most of this, actually the whole chapter, because I think we just gloss over the highlights. We hit the high points and we miss some of the details, what actually is going to reveal the heart of Jephthah. So let's begin. Chapter 11, verse 1. Now Jephthah, the Gileadite, was a valiant warrior, but he was the son of a harlot, and Gilead was the father of Jephthah. Just stop right there. My version says, was a valiant warrior. It's Hayah Gibor Chayil. You might recognize this Hebrew word Chayil. Eshet Chayil is the name for the woman of valor from Proverbs 31. A woman of valor, or a woman of strength. He is actually being called a great man of valor. Mine says that he was a valiant warrior, but he was a man of valor. Gideon was actually called a great man of valor. Verse 2, Gilead's wife bore him sons, and when his wife's sons grew up, they drove Jephthah out and said to him, "You shall not have any inheritance in our father's house, for you are the son of another woman." So Jephthah fled from his brothers and lived in the land of Tov. And worthless fellows gathered themselves about Jephthah, and they went out with him. It came about after a while that the sons of Ammon fought against Israel. When the sons of Ammon fought against Israel, the elders of Gilead went to get Jephthah from the land of Tov. And they said to Jephthah, "Come and be our chief, that we may fight against the sons of Ammon." Verse 7, Then Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, "Did you not hate me and drive me from my father's house? So why have you come to me now when you are in trouble?" We'll stop there. So detailed, verse 1, it says that he was the son of a harlot. And when Gilead, his father, had children, had other sons, of course, the sons didn't want him to have any part in the inheritance, so they drove him out. What's very interesting is that he goes to a place called Tov, and we know Hebrew, right? Tov means good. So he actually is driven out of his land, out of where he is, out of the home under his father's house by his brothers, so that they could have their inheritance. They didn't want him to have any part of it. Now, he would only have part of it, and they would receive some, but they're like, "No, you're a son of a harlot. We're the rightful ones, and I want you to go." But he's driven out to a place called Good, and he's surrounded by worthless men. Now, these are details I want you to put in your pocket and just to have until later. But worthless men, men of ill repute, we'll say, gather themselves around this man because there's something must be special about him. I think we're going to start to see a little bit more about his character. Now, Gilead, the elders come to him and they say, "We want you to come and save us." And he's like, "Don't you guys hate me? Don't you want me to be out of your presence?" And they're like, "No, we want you to be the leader because we need you." Verse 8, The elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, "For this reason we now have returned to you, that you may go with us and fight with the sons of Ammon and become head over all the inhabitants of Gilead." So Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, "If you take me back to fight against the sons of Ammon, and the Lord gives them up to me, will I become your head?" The elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, "The Lord is witness between us. Surely we will do as you have said." Then Jephthah went to the elders of Gilead, and the people made him head and chief over them. And Jephthah spoke all the words before the Lord at Mizpah. So, don't you hate me? Are you sure that you want this? And they're like, "Yeah, you come fight our battle, we'll make you the leader." And Jephthah is like, "Really? Really? Because I know how you guys move. I already got ran out of my house. I got run out of my house because you didn't want to give me inheritance, my land, what I was due from my father. And maybe if I win this battle for you, really aren't going to make me the leader." And they're like, "Oh yeah, come, be leader." So Jephthah knows he's not a dumb man. He knows what is going on, and he actually is going to make sure everybody's held to account, because he's already been severed from his family because they wanted things for themselves. So they were not following through with their word. Obviously, Jephthah was part of his household. His father brought him in, even though he was the son of a harlot, he was still brought in until his wife started having children. So something in that agreement went wrong, and they decided to drive him out. He has experienced people not of their word. They're not keeping to what they said. And so the elders of Gilead come to him and say, "We'll make you leader if you fight for us." He's like, "Make me leader and I'll fight for you." So he's smart. He plans out. He's like, "I'm not going to be made a fool. In fact, let's do it before the Lord. Let's do it and confirm it before the Lord," which also then tells us something about Jephthah. In his perspective, who is the one that holds people accountable to their word? Who is going to affirm things to be true? Who is the one that is the righteous judge? Who is the one who holds people to account but the Lord? And so he establishes two things about him. He's not a dumb man. He's not stupid. He knows what he's doing. He sees the hearts of other men, and he considers them when he goes into an agreement with them. And he seems to be one that wants everybody to be accountable to their word. Verse 11, at the end, Jephthah spoke all his words before the Lord at Mizpah. A man of his words. He actually then even puts himself in the place of holding himself accountable. He says, "I'm going to say all of these things. I will agree." We don't give all these little details, but presumably what he is saying is, "I'm going to be the leader of you guys, and I am going to fulfill my end of the deal, and that is to deliver us from this battle, or deliver us from our enemy, Ammon, who's coming in and making these claims against us." And so he is affirming his word. He's questioning their word, but he is calling God to witness all of this. Verse 12, now Jephthah sent messengers to the king of the sons of Ammon, saying, "What is between you and me that you have come to me to fight against my land?" The king of the sons of Ammon said to the messengers of Jephthah, "Because Israel took away my land when they came up from Egypt, from the Arnon as far as to the Jabbok and the Jordan, therefore return them peaceably now." But Jephthah sent messengers again to the king of the sons of Ammon, and they said to him, "Thus says Jephthah, Israel did not take away the land of Moab, nor the land of the sons of Ammon. For when they came up from the land of Egypt, and Israel went through the wilderness to the Red Sea and came to Kadesh, then Israel sent messengers to the king of Edom." This is all from Numbers chapter 20, our Torah portion, saying, "Please let us pass through your land." But the king of Edom would not listen. And they also sent to the king of Moab, but he would not consent. So Israel remained at Kadesh. Then they went through the wilderness and around the land of Edom and the land of Moab, and they came to the east of Arnon. But they did not enter the territory of Moab, for the Arnon was at the border of Moab. And Israel sent messengers to Sihon, king of the Amorites, and the king of Heshbon. And Israel said to him, "Please, let us pass through your land to our place." But Sihon did not trust Israel to pass through the territory, and Sihon gathered all his people and camped in Jahaz and fought with Israel. The Lord, the God of Israel, gave Sihon and all his people into the hand of Israel, and they defeated them. So Israel possessed all the land of the Amorites, the inhabitants of the country. So they possessed all the territory of the Amorites from the Arnon as far as the Jabbok, and from the wilderness as far as the Jordan. Verse 23, since now the Lord, the God of Israel, drove out the Amorites before his people Israel, are you then to possess it? Do you not possess what Chemosh, your God, gives you to possess? So whatever the Lord, our God, has driven out before us, we will possess it. And continuing 25, now are you any better than Balak, the son of Zippor, king of Moab? Did he not strive with Israel, or did he ever fight against them? While Israel lived in Heshbon and its villages, and in Areor and its villages, and in all the cities that are on the banks of the Arnon, 300 years, why did you not recover them within that time? I therefore have not sinned against you, but you are doing me wrong by making war against me. May the Lord, the judge today between the sons of Israel and the sons of Ammon. But the king of the sons of Ammon disregarded the message which Jephthah sent him. Very detailed, recounting all of Numbers chapter 20 through 21, even into 22. And there is even some more details there because hindsight in history, 300 years. He's counting everything to them. He knows what he's talking about. The elders of Gilead came to Jephthah in order to go and fight against the Ammonites. But does he just go rush right out, hastily just decide, I am the one who has the power. I've got all this army with me now. I can go and beat these guys. No, he enters into peaceable negotiations. He sends the truth to the Ammonite kings, to the Ammonite people, as to the history. And in fact, he backs it up with God. He says, look, you've got your own God, Chemosh, the destroyer. You've got your God. Doesn't he give you what you possess? Well, our God does the same thing. He gave us all that land. When we came up into the land, your ancestors came out to fight us. We defended ourselves, and you ended up losing it all because the Lord delivered it all into our hands. So all of this is not to try and provoke, and in no way did he provoke. And in fact, calling out Chemosh and saying, well, look, your God gives you what you are going to have to possess. And your God hasn't come into our land. He hasn't given you that victory. He's just pointing out the obvious, not trying to provoke them, but to say, hey, we've got no beef. There's no need for you to keep attacking us or to even ask for this back. So he doesn't rush off. Remember, we have this picture of him. Not all of us, but some of us maybe have this picture that he does things rashly, that he does things without considering the cost. He goes right into doing it. No, he's not. He didn't enter into agreement with the Gileadites, his people, in a rash manner. He went through an agreement. Everybody was to be held to the word of God as their witness, as the judge between them. The same thing is being done here with the Ammonites who are wanting to come in. He gives them not only a peaceable way out, but he gives them truth in history. And he's like, we don't have to do this. He's a man of peace. He's not a man of war. He's a man of peace. The wild thing is that he's like, it's been over 300 years. It's been 300 years, and you're not saying anything until now. Obviously, there's some undercurrent. We feel like you're not under good leadership, so we can go ahead and make this claim. And he's like, is this the time you want to do it? So he's in touch with not only the politics, but the history, and most of all, he is pointing to the Lord as their judge and the one who directs all things. Our God against your God, our land, not your land. And this is where this vow starts to come in. Verse 29. Now the Spirit of the Lord came upon Jephthah, so that he passed through Gilead and Manasseh. And he passed through Mizpah and Gilead, and from Mizpah of Gilead he went on to the sons of Ammon. Jephthah made a vow to the Lord and said, "If you will indeed give the sons of Ammon into my hand, then it shall be, whatever comes out the doors of my house to meet me when I return in peace from the sons of Ammon, it shall be the Lord's, and I will offer it up as a burnt offering." Verse 32. So Jephthah crossed over to the sons of Ammon to fight against them, and the Lord gave them into his hand. He struck them with a very great slaughter from the Haror to the entrance of Minnith, 20 cities, and as far as Abel Keramim. The sons of Ammon were subdued before the sons of Israel. The Spirit of the Lord comes upon them. We hear that about all the judges. The Lord comes upon them, the Spirit, and empowers them to accomplish what they're going to do. And before he goes to battle, he makes this vow to the Lord that whatever comes out to greet me when I come home from this battle, that I'm going to offer it up as an olah. Olah is a burnt offering. So we know what an olah, it's a completely consumed offering. So he makes this vow to the Lord that this is what he's going to do. Now, I want you to think about this. When we hear about rash vows, when we hear about imprudent vows, ones that are done hastily, we think of those, what they call foxhole vows. Lord, if you would only get me out of this, then I will do this. Lord, if you do this, because you're in a pressure cooker. You're in a place where you either fear for your life, you fear for your safety, you fear for your future. You are in peril at that moment, and so you want to get out of it. So you make a promise to the Lord, hey, if you do this for me, I'm going to do that for you. I promise this is what I'm going to do. I need you to answer me right now. Jephthah doesn't do that. Jephthah has the Spirit of the Lord come upon him. He has already tried to negotiate peace with their enemies. And before he goes to war, he says, Lord, I promise to give you whatever comes to me as greeting me as an olah, as a burnt offering unto you. So there's no hasty nature. We've already seen he's a methodical man. He plans things out. He knows the consequences. Scripture talks about a man that when you go out to war, you consider the cost. Proverbs reaffirms that. So he knows what he's doing when he says this vow. Okay, I'm digging him a hole, right? I'm digging him a hole. If he knows exactly what this means, then we've got a problem because vows are very important. And I'm just going to read you a few things. Numbers chapter 30, and this talks about vows. Then Moses spoke to the heads of the tribes of the sons of Israel, saying, "This is the word which the Lord has commanded. If a man makes a vow to the Lord or takes an oath to bind himself with a binding obligation, he shall not violate his word. He shall do according to all that proceeds out of his mouth. Also, if a woman," and it goes down through all the vows and how that all lays itself out there. So there is no recourse for him. He's going to do it. And we've already seen that he seems to be a man of his word. When he says something, it's going to take hold. Now, commentators, rabbis, people looking at this, they say, all right, well, it was rash because you never know what's going to come out to greet you. What if it was a non-kosher animal that came out to greet you? You have dogs, and so a dog comes out, or something that wasn't able to be offered as a sacrifice, and here he's saying that he needs to go ahead and follow through with it. Well, I don't think he's ever not come home from a long journey. He knows what comes out to greet him. Generally, an animal, just think about it, even in contemporary time, if you have a dog at home and your husband or wife are coming home, and of course the dog loves them, if your spouse comes and opens the door, the dog runs out to greet him. But who actually came to do the greeting? Well, it was the spouse actually came to greet who was coming. The dog got there first, but it was the one who opened the door to come out and greet. Now, in ancient culture, they made a big thing, especially if somebody was gone off to war or on a long travel, to greet whom was returning, especially if it was the head of the household. They would come out to greet them, whether it be his wife or his children. Leviticus 27, again, is about vows. You can just take a note here. Leviticus 27, verse 1, again, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, when a man makes a difficult vow, he shall be valued according to the valuation of persons belonging to the Lord. If your valuation is of a male from 20 years even to 60 years old, then your valuation shall be 50 shekels of silver after the shekel of the sanctuary. Now it goes through and talks about the valuation of somebody who has made a vow to dedicate themselves to the Lord. What you do in this case is that if you are vowing yourself to the Lord, you're really going to the priest and they say, okay, well, it's going to be 60 shekels, or for a woman, 30 shekels that you actually give to them for the service of the tabernacle. I'm just giving you context because this isn't what Jephthah did. So you can redeem the person yourself who has made that vow with money, redemption money. For those that wonder about, well, what if it was a non-kosher or kosher animal that, like, your goats came out to greet you, or your sheep came out to greet you, or your dog? Well, it says in other places in verse 9, it says, now if it is an animal of any kind, of the kind that men can present as an offering to the Lord, any such that one gives to the Lord shall be holy. He shall not replace it or exchange it, a good for a bad, or a bad for a good, or if he does exchange the animal for an animal, then both it and its substitute shall be holy. All that to say is that if you're offering an animal and it's not worthy enough to be a sacrifice, you probably need to add a good animal to it. You can't take it back. The animal's dedicated to the temple. No matter what, it's going to be given. Continuing in verse 11, if, however, it is an unclean animal of any kind which men do not present as an offering to the Lord, then he shall place the animal before the priest. The priest shall value it as either good or bad. As the priest value it, it shall be. So, all that to point out that even if it's an animal that's going to be dedicated to the Lord, even if it was not kosher, meaning that it wasn't able to be offered as a sacrifice on the altar of the Lord, then you could still have the valuation, the money, to be offered unto the service of the tabernacle. Again, not what Jephthah did. However, all of these are being presented just so we can get an idea of, well, the accusations or the conclusions we make sometimes about the rashness of his vow. He was about to offer something that he couldn't. Well, the Torah covers all of those things. If he was accidentally going to be greeted by a dog, he could go ahead and redeem it. If it was an animal that wasn't good enough, he could add to it. If it was a person, you could go ahead and give the money. But he qualifies this by an olah offering, a burnt and complete offering, not necessarily as a vow. And why is this important? I believe it is important because it actually takes us right back to Genesis 22:2, 22, and basically the whole chapter. Genesis 22 is when Abraham offers up Isaac. The Lord asked Abraham to offer up Isaac as an olah, a complete burnt offering. And of course, we know what happens. He takes Isaac up there, he raises his hand, and the angel of the Lord stops him. And what does the Lord say? Now I know you fear me. Not afraid, but I know you are in awe of me, that you are willing to give everything to me. A burnt offering is completely consumed. Isaac was the promised son. The inheritance was going to go to Isaac. Remember, the whole thing going down with Abraham was, I'm going to give my inheritance to Eliezer. I'm going to give him to Esau. I'm going to do this. And he's like, no. It's going to go through Isaac. The promise, the inheritance is going to go to him. And are you willing to give everything up? Of course, this is a picture of God and his son, right? Are you willing to give it all up? I put forward that Jephthah says, I'm willing to give everything to you. I'm willing to give anything and everything to you. He knew exactly what he was doing. We're still in a problem, but he knew that he wasn't going to be greeted by a dog. He knew he wasn't going to be greeted by sheep or goats. Maybe he was hoping, but he knew he was going to be greeted by family. Maybe slaves first, I don't know. But he was willing to give of whom was coming. In fact, before we move on, if he knew it was going to be family, the insight into what happened to Jephthah even shows how much faith this man has. He was driven out by his brothers because they didn't want him to have any part of the inheritance. And now he is in a place to secure their inheritance. He is the leader in Israel who is defending against Ammon coming in to take the land of Gilead, which is the inheritance of his brothers. So think about this. Here's a man who knows exactly what he's facing, knows all the circumstances, and then says to the Lord, Lord, I'm willing to give of everything I have to secure their inheritance. If you give me this victory, I'm going to secure my brother's inheritance who hate me, who have shown that they hate me. But I'm willing, Lord, for their sake to give everything I have. And he's going to find out what it means to give everything he has. Verse 34, when Jephthah came to his house at Mizpah, behold, his daughter was coming out to meet him with tambourines and with dancing. Now she was his one and only child. Besides her, he had no son or daughter. I'll just stop right there. The chances that his daughter was going to come out with this celebration after this great victory to him was supreme. He's not a dumb man. He knows that his daughter, his family is going to come to him. His one and only child, his daughter. Now, we know from the daughters of Zelophehad that they could inherit everything from their father. So she was the one that was going to get the inheritance. She was his future. She was everything to him, not only for the inheritance of his name, but for the inheritance of his land, for everything to be remembered. Think about this. He was willing, I'm going to hammer this home, he was willing to risk it all for his brothers who hate him. Now, in his recounting of all the history, he points out that God was the one that did all of these things. God is the one that secured the victory. God is the one who did. Guess what? He knows God is faithful. So add this to it. He made a vow to a God he knows is faithful. He said, Lord, if you deliver them to our hand, he's assuring that he's going to be devoting something to the Lord because he knows God is faithful. He knows the Lord gives victory. He was either going to be giving his life in the defeat or he was going to be giving his life in the victory. This man was not rash. This man knew what he was doing. He didn't think that this was some rash vow. He knew it was a costly vow. We still have a problem I haven't dealt with. It's all back there, right? You feel it. When he saw her, he tore his clothes, and he said, Alas, my daughter, you have brought me very low, and you are among those who have troubled me. For I have given my word to the Lord, and I cannot take it back. Man of his word, especially to the Lord. So she said to him, My father, you have given your word to the Lord. Do to me as you have said, since the Lord has avenged you and your enemies, the sons of Ammon. She said to her father, Let this thing be done for me. Let me alone 2 months that I may go to the mountains and weep because of my virginity, I and my companions. Then he said, Go. So he sent her away for 2 months, and she left with her companions and wept on the mountains because of her virginity. At the end of 2 months, she returned to her father, who did to her according to the vow which he had made. And she had no relations with a man. Thus it became a custom in the land of Israel that the daughters of Israel went yearly to commemorate the daughter of Jephthah the Gileadite 4 days in the year. All right, so here's the problem. We're going to do what he said he was going to do, that is the olah. Well, we know the character of our God, first off, that he didn't ask for the sacrifice of Isaac, his son, the inheritance. In fact, Chemosh is closely related to Moloch, the god who took child sacrifice. So think about this. Jephthah is going to battle with gods who take child sacrifice for victory, and God says, you know what? I'm going to accept child sacrifice to fight against a God who accepts child sacrifice when I've already made it pretty clear that I don't accept child sacrifice. So there's a problem. There's a problem. Well, The answer very simply goes back to that Genesis 22 encounter, and that the Lord says, with the same heart, and I believe Jephthah is doing the same thing, he's saying, I'm willing to give it all completely. Not a redemptive price, not one where I can go ahead and say, I'm going to offer whatever comes, any person, any daughter that I can go ahead and redeem with money in a vow, but rather a full, complete offering unto the Lord and the service of our God. Is that even possible? Yes. Exodus 38, the construction of the tabernacle is done. They are putting all things together, and they're putting the laver, the seed, where the Levites wash their body after the sacrifices, before and after. And what do they collect to put in there but the mirrors of the women who serve at the tabernacle? Well, what does that mean? These are women. It doesn't say the Levites' wives who serve at the service of the tabernacle, because we know that the Levites had wives and they all worked together, the Levites, the men and the women, for the service of the tabernacle. But these were the women who were there. Now, in case we just need more than one example, we do, because the Lord loves one witness and two witnesses. Now, we read about it in a negative context, and this is in Samuel with Eli and his sons. The high priest Eli, the not good one with his sons, what they used to do is that they used to have relations with the women who served the tabernacle. The women who served at the tabernacle, who gave their service to the Lord, they devoted themselves. It wasn't the daughters of the Levites. It wasn't the wives of the Levites. It was the women who gave themselves a service. Now, is it explicitly said here in the Torah that you can go ahead and devote your life to the Lord and service of the tabernacle? It's not explicitly anywhere in here. We read that they can be redeemed, but here Jephthah says, I'm going to give a person for complete olah, a complete offering to serve the Lord. In fact, in the New Testament, we have an example of a woman who does this. Anna. She is the one who, after Simeon blesses the child, when Miriam and Joseph bring Yeshua to the temple for the circumcision, for the blessing, Simeon sees him, now that I've held him in my arms, a beautiful thing. Then Hannah comes. She is, and it's mentioned in Luke chapter 2, where she was a widow. She had lived with her husband for 7 years, and then he dies. And what does she do? She devotes herself to nothing but fasting and prayer day and night at the temple. And so she is another picture of a woman who has completely devoted herself to the service at the tabernacle. So I would suggest that here is a woman, Jephthah's daughter, who says, look, you're a man of your word. I'm going to be a woman of your word. Let it be done unto me as you have said. Let it be done to me as you have said. And so she goes off and bemoans, bewails her virginity. He says when she comes back at the end of 2 months, the father, verse 39, who did to her according to the vow which he had made, and she had no relations with man. That little added thing, again, helps us to know what she's giving up. She's giving up the inheritance of having children for Jephthah's house. She remained a virgin in her 2 months that she went off to bemoan it, and her rest of her life, she gave herself completely to the service of the Lord. It's still a rough vow. And in fact, it drives home the fact that here is a man who gave everything to the Lord. He knew the cost. It was going to be his inheritance to secure the ones who hated him's inheritance. His brothers who hated him. He secures their inheritance, loses his future. He knew what he was heading into. He knew the cost, and he was willing to give it all. And then his daughter, in the same manner, was willing to say, she didn't go, Father, you've got to do something. Can't you just do the redemption thing? Can't you just do? She didn't argue for it. She said, let it be. Let it be. One last point about the child sacrifice, because there are still many who say, well, since he said, Olah, and he did what he said he was going to do, then it must have been a child sacrifice. Had to be a child sacrifice because that's what it says. Now, are we that simple? We already know Jephthah isn't. Like he says something and he can't do something different or mean something fuller. In other words, when he says that he's going to offer as a burnt offering, he has no recourse. He's not going to be like, oh, I can't offer as a sacrifice. In fact, the Lord shows us that it wasn't a human sacrifice because the kings of Israel, in particular Ahaz and Manasseh, offered up their children as sacrifices, not to the Lord, but to Moloch. And the Lord was not happy. Both of those guys had not so good endings and led to Israel's captivity for 70 years, is that they were going after false gods and making their children pass through the fire. In Deuteronomy, the Lord says, you're not going to do any of those things when you come into the land. So if by chance, Jephthah, I would say, if he offered his daughter and the Lord accepted it on the altar, which you know he's not going to, because even in Leviticus 27, it says, I'm not going to even accept a non-kosher animal to be on the altar. How am I going to accept a person, right? I mean, how do we even entertain the idea that he went ahead and offered? Well, it was a corrupt time. No, because the Lord would have not let that go. There would have been dire circumstances or dire consequences, if he had offered her as a sacrifice, if the priesthood had accepted it, if the Lord was to accept this at all. And so it's an impossibility, is what I'm saying. The words may seem to be in that way, but we have to understand that it was a spiritual offering that happened. In the same manner, he said, I'm giving everything. It was physical because she ended up dwelling at the tabernacle for the rest of her life. It was physical because she had no children. It was physical because she gave all of her being, most likely in prayer and fasting, to the Lord. Now, I mentioned Luke chapter 1 or Luke chapter 2 with Anna, but I want us to consider another couple in Luke chapter 1. Joseph and Miriam, Joseph and Mary, the parents of Jesus, Yeshua. An angel appears to Miriam, verse 30. The Lord said to her, do not be afraid, Mary, for you have found favor with God. And behold, you will conceive in your womb and bear a son, and you shall name him Yeshua. He will be great, and he will be called the Son of the Most High. And the Lord God will give him the throne of his father David. And he will reign over the house of Jacob forever, and his kingdom will have no end. Mary said to the angel, how can this be, since I am a virgin? The angel answered and said to her, the Holy Spirit will come upon you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. And for that reason, the Holy Child shall be called the Son of God. And behold, even your relative Elizabeth has also conceived a son in her old age. And she who was called barren is now in her 6th month. Verse 37, for nothing will be impossible with God. 38, and Mary said, behold, the bondservant of the Lord, may it be done according to your word. And the angel departed from her. Now I stressed back when Jephthah's daughter was saying to him, let it be done unto your word, unto me. Let me remain a virgin. My womb I give to the Lord. My womb I give to the Lord. My virginity I give in complete service unto the Lord. Here, Miriam does the exact same thing. She's given from the Lord. You're going to be devoted unto the service of the Lord. And she's a virgin, and she says, Lord, not my will, but your will, really. She says, let it be done by your word. Let it be done to me in the same way. Now, Joseph had a different encounter with the Lord. The angel comes in a dream. Now think for Joseph, he gets this dream that the Lord says, your wife is with child, all of these things. Now, he is also in kind of a weird place, similar to Jephthah, in that, you mean my firstborn isn't going to be mine? Wait, I have a child, that's my inheritance, that's where it all goes through. You're trying to tell me that I have to give up my name, my inheritance because of what? Because God, you're going to do something? You're going to do something with my wife? You're going to do something with her? You're going to take her womb, the fruit of her womb? You're going to what? Accomplish redemption for all mankind. Their sins are going to be forgiven. I guess, it doesn't make sense, but it makes sense. You mean when I give up everything and I turn it over to the Lord, you're going to cause something greater than I could ever imagine? When I give up everything of who I am, you have a different plan. It's going to be for the salvation of my brothers who even hate me. Love your enemy. Turn to Luke 14. Jephthah is found in the Hall of Fame of Faith. He's listed with Gideon. Gideon, what is Gideon known for? He puts out the fleece. Lord, I'm not sure if I can do this or not. I'm going to put out a fleece. Okay, I got one sign. Let me get another one. Man of big faith. Well, he is. Please hear me. And then we hear of Samson, the things that he did. He's listed there. We hear of David, and Balak was before that, and he needed Deborah when he was about to win the battle. He's like, I can't do this unless you come with us, Deborah. All these men of great faith. And then, of course, they mentioned Jephthah. And we're like, well, how does that work? But I want to put forward that he was a man of great faith because he counted all the cost. He knew what it was going to be to release his control of his inheritance, his future, completely to the Lord. And he was willing not only to speak it to man, but speak it in front of the Lord and be held to that vow. Yeshua gives us a picture of what that faith looks like. Luke 14, verse 28. For which one of you, when he wants to build a tower, does not first sit down and calculate the cost to see if he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he has laid the foundation and is not able to finish, all who observe it begin to ridicule him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. Or what king, when he sets out to meet another king in battle, will not first sit down and consider whether he is strong enough with 10,000 men to encounter the one coming against him with 20,000? Or else, while the other is still far away, he sends a delegation and asks for terms of peace. So then, none of you can be my disciple who does not give up all his own possessions. Now, I read just a portion of that. We're going to read a little bit more of it. But Jephthah considered what it was to go to battle against the Ammonites. He considered all the cost that it was going to be, and he was willing. Lord, whatever comes out to greet me, I offer it unto you. He was willing to give it all. Yeshua says to his disciples, trying to tell them, this is the cost of discipleship. Are you willing to give it all? Have you considered every possibility? Do you know what you're headed into? Jephthah gave it all. And in fact, he does exactly what Yeshua asks in verse 25. It says, now large crowds were going along with him, and he turned and said to them, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and his mother and his wife and his children and his brothers and his sisters, yes, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not carry his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Jephthah knew that it was either going to be his wife or his daughter coming out to greet him, most likely his daughter. Now, does Jephthah hate his daughter? No. Is Yeshua asking us to hate our family members? No. But he's giving us the understanding of, are you willing to give it all? Release all of this to me. Are you willing to let go of all of those relationships, to let go of all of those things for the sake of the kingdom, for God? Are you willing to, even Jephthah was willing to do it. Are you willing then to be like his daughter who said, let it be done unto me. Let me go into complete service, because that's what it is. Jephthah is the example. Are you willing? Jephthah's daughter is that you do it, that you completely devote yourself unto the Lord. You completely give anything. All this earthly stuff means nothing, is what he's saying. Means nothing if you're going to be a disciple to me. Not that it's not important. Are you that devoted? And in fact, he seals it with verse 34. Therefore, salt is good, but if even salt has become tasteless, with what will it be seasoned? It is useless either for the soil or for the manure pile. It is thrown out. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. Let him hear this hard message. Do you have the kind of faith, knowing? I mean, he's not asking for blind faith. He's asking for calculated faith. Calculate the cost. Know what you're headed into. I'm not leaving you ignorant. Follow me fully. It's not easy. It often can be construed or perceived that, we're under grace now, right? And everything is gracious. Look, we were under grace the whole time. We're under grace all the time. The incredible thing is that we're being called to greater holiness, greater sanctification unto the Lord. What was of the flesh is now of the heart. What was of temporal benefit is of eternal. So the calling isn't this mediocrity, this small thing. It is all in. It's come after me. It is be thoughtful of what even comes out of your mouth. Every little thing that comes out of your mouth is important. Over and over again, he said, let it be done to your word. This vow, the things that you guys said, let me make sure everything that comes out of our mouths, let it be of the kingdom. We need to be salt that's salty, not over salty. We need to be salt that's salty, because anything else, it's no good. Any compromise, again, it's this hard thing. Thou shalt not kill. No, thou shalt not hate in your heart. It's not a making it easier. It's easier because he transforms us. But it's raising the bar. That's why Jephthah is part of the Hall of Fame of faith, because he had great faith. He understood the cost that was before him, and he was willing to release it all to the Lord, to give it all. May we be found in the Hall of Fame of faith. I believe we will. Ecclesiastes 5, verse 1. Guard your steps as you go to the house of God, and draw near and listen rather than to offer the sacrifice of fools, for they do not know they are doing evil. Do not be hasty in word or impulse, in thought to bring up a matter in the presence of God. For God is in heaven and you are on earth. Therefore let your words be few. For the dream comes through much effort, and the voice of a fool through many words. When you make a vow to God, do not be late in paying it, for he takes no delight in fools. Pay what you vow. It is better that you should not vow than that you should vow and not pay. Do not let your speech cause you to sin, and do not say in the presence of the messenger of God that it was a mistake. Why should God be angry on account of your voice and destroy the work of your hands? For in many dreams and in many words there is emptiness. Rather, fear God. Yeshua says it here, but let your statement be yes, yes, and no, no. Anything beyond this is of evil. May we walk in the awe, the fear of God, and that we might go to that high calling, respond to that high calling of only our yes being yes and our no being no. Nothing more, nothing less. Anything else is from the evil one. Thank you for joining us today at Mosaic Ministries, where we uncover God's love in the Bible. We hope this message has encouraged and strengthened your faith. Remember, as we walk in His Word, let's ask ourselves, does it bring life? Does it bring light? Does it bring love? Does it bring Jesus? May the Lord guide and comfort you as you live out His love in your life this week. Until next time, Shalom.